Welcome to the Teachers Lounge podcast, Teach, Lead, Inspire. We're here today, we're going to run through the topic of leadership. Just a caveat, it's not a leadership development seminar or workshop. Also not speaking from the cheap seats here or shooting from the hip. It's a very grounded conversation with leaders and for leaders, specifically if you're new or aspiring and even seasoned in leadership. There'll be some things to take away from here. So sit back, enjoy, and I just want to start off with a quote from Star Trek. One of the guys put it up in the Facebook group. So here it is. Great men or women do not seek power. They have power thrust upon them. And you might be familiar if you're a Trekkie. I don't know, just one of the Klingons said that. Really important person, apparently. Anyway, sit back, relax, enjoy a cup of tea, or if you're driving, keep your eyes open, don't touch your phone, and enjoy leadership. Now, as I said, it's not going to be a seminar or a professional development, or technically you can kind of use this as PD hours in that undefined or unstructured category. But no, we're looking at leadership, and it's quite a contentious topic. One of the things I'm doing outside of just one of the many hats I have is lecturing at university. And one of the topics I do is leadership and management. And we've spent the last few weeks really unpacking and having great dialogue just around the differences between leadership and management. And, what is the qualities of a leader opposed to a manager. I think already from just that comment, you can probably piece together my feelings, or you may even have your own thoughts about it. About what is a good leader and the difference between a manager and the very basis of it. And the premise of this podcast today would be around leadership being people-focused and management being task-focused. And that's really as basic as you can get between the differences between leadership and management. What we're going to look at today is leadership it's rarely defined by titles or lists. Leadership, it shapes culture, it shapes people, and it shapes your organization or your staff. And so I really just want to make that distinct clarification that leadership is about people. And yeah, we're good at managing and doing the tasks, but when you're out of your seat, that's where the leadership happens, and the management happens behind your seat, so in the office. Now, I put out a couple of weeks ago just a question about what makes a good leader. A few people responded, which was great. So I'm going to just tap in and name some people and some shout outs, and basically what they said about it. And as I was preparing some notes, this could go on for the entire year. We're not doing an MBA, or it's just commentary around a topic, which is leadership today. And so we're just going to unpack a few little comments, and I've got a few things to throw in. So hopefully you learn some stuff. Again, if you're a seasoned leader, it might be a great refresher, but we're just going to jump straight in, chat about it, and see where we end up. So first up in the Facebook group, we had Gemma, and she just, I think one of the first ones to respond, she said this: a good leader does not micromanage, but uses the strengths of everyone in the team and allows those specialized to use their specialities. So there's a few things in that Gemma's insinuating here. So one thing she brought up was micromanaging. If I was in a class here, hands up, I don't think anyone would put their hand up to go, yeah, I love being micromanaged. It's like, yes, we like being instructed and directed, but when someone's consistently checking up or following up, or even in a belittling way, that's micromanagement. Anyway, so micromanagement, it erodes creativity and trust. And I would dare say that strong leaders would identify the talents within their team, okay, and trust them, and that word's going to pop up a bit, trust, to run in their own zone of genius. So this is a concept of empowering others. It's not stepping back, it's empowerment, and it's what I'd say strategically stepping aside so that others can step up. So what Gemma said is pretty genius. And if you are a leader or looking at leadership or just in general as a person, a good leader does not micromanage, but they use the strengths of everyone in the team. I'm hearing that and going, as a leader, a good leader knows their team. It's actually one of the 8 source standards as well. Know your students, or know your staff, or know your team. And again, it allows those that are specialized, like with literacy, or you might have a budding artist or musician on your team. Now, how are we going to empower those people in their classrooms or on the staff to use their gifts and talents effectively to empower them? So that's a really interesting one. Micromanagement and just identifying the strengths of everyone on the team to really just step aside so that you can step others up. And another side point from that, and you might be familiar with it, is that as an effective leader, you actually do want people, not being better than you is the wrong words, but you want to shine the light on people and elevate people and if they put you out of a job, great, job done. Okay. Micromanagement, stepping aside, stepping others up. Great, Gemma. Super. Effective leaders. So Jackie, another contribution. It's a bit of a long one, so bear with. Actually, no, Jackie from Melbourne. Fantastic. Jackie says, great leaders are not opposed to getting in there and helping those they are leading by example. Not a hand in hand all the time, but when necessary and needed. And she also follows up and says, the worst leaders are those that dictate, give direction, and are never seen lifting a finger, not actually understanding the reality issues that arise for those they're leading. Almost a power-hungry vibe. Interesting. There's a lot in there. Thanks, Jackie. So first up, leaders are not opposed to getting in there and helping. So getting in the trenches and getting behind and beside, more so, their staff. As a leader, it's not about getting in the trenches daily and just like doing the work that you essentially employ others to do, maybe for a season, but it means that you know what the trenches look like. And this is why it's super important as a leader to have tread the path where your staff or team are treading. You hear the rhetoric all the time of some teachers saying, oh, the leadership, they've been out of the classroom for so long, they don't know what it's like anymore. And like to a certain degree, absolutely, that's correct. And which is why I love it when principals or APs or other leaders they still have their finger in the classroom, in with the students, in the trenches. I just want to tap on the dictating bit that Jackie pointed out, saying the worst leaders. And I don't know if you think around Australia in politics or even other parts of the world, and the word dictator pops up, very, very negative connotations. So my point is that dictation without participation, so like you're just sitting in your ivory tower just barking orders, it creates disconnect. And so my argument here is, and agreeing with Jackie, real leaders show up when it matters. We all know that leader that pokes their head up for optics, but because they're actually, they show up when it matters because they actually understand the job and they care about those that are doing the job. Putting your leadership lenses on, Jackie's absolutely correct. So I'm going to say that great leaders are not opposed to getting in there and helping those that they are leading by getting in when it's necessary and needed. And the worst leaders dictate. You might have come across this, the viral principle. I forget his name. Is that skinny guy from America? He trademark ditched his office and has that wheelie trolley. Oh, if I had socials open, I'd find it. Forget his name, but you probably come across him. And so he is a type of leader, a type of principal that gets in there on the day to day. And the first part of his day, and you might agree or disagree, or I don't know where you sit, but as a leader, he pokes his head into every single classroom, not in a judgmental way or a way that's controlling and checking in, quote, quote, checking in with a motive, but just genuinely walking around going, hey, love to serve you. What can I do? Is there anything that you need? And every single of his, 10, 12, 15 classrooms visits his teachers on a daily basis, walks around and actually gets in the trenches saying, who needs an assist here? If you think of it like a I don't know, Call of Duty game or something, first person shooter, your buddy who's your champion of the team comes up and says, hey, you're good, need an assist? No, I'm good. Or, yeah, I actually need coffee. I don't know. But whatever it is, Jackie, completely correct. Great leaders get in the trenches and are there. And they're not dictating, but they are, and hopefully don't have that power hungry vibes. Yeah, really understand what you're going through and are there to support. Hopefully, you have a leader or you are a leader that has that. So, quick little top up. So, great leaders don't micromanage. Great leaders get in the trenches. And again, these are just like scratching the surface of leadership. So, hopefully, they're reminders, or maybe it's new to you. Maybe you're wanting to look at leadership and go, where do I start? Start here. Number 3, Kristen pokes his head up and says, when confided in as a leader with gossip or whinges, poor leaders, they indulge in those petty complaints, as in rewarding and empowering a poor workplace culture in the process. So basing decisions, he's still going, on bigger picture info rather than opinions or grumbles is important. Okay, so he's basically saying if every teacher wins, you need to speak up. Whether it's, oh, have you heard, or talking up is better than talking down. So if you've heard stuff, and now I'm just talking as a teacher or even a leader, you've heard stuff, you could talk down or across with your peers and turns into gossip and whinging. It's actually better to talk it up. And an excellent leader will be able to synthesize what's gossip or whinging or complaining and not call you out, so to speak, but almost call you up into a healthier way of thinking. Anyway, I digress. So if we think about the concept of gossip and whinging as a teacher, you've heard stuff, you're bringing it to your leader, okay? It's the right thing to do. Now, gossip in itself destroys trust. Leaders who indulge that gossip or the whinging, it's essentially tolerating toxicity, and if it's not combated, it's rewarding toxicity. And so this is actually a bigger conversation that Kristen's brought up, but culture is built through what we encourage and what we allow. So if we're encouraging gossip or allowing or permitting gossip, that's the culture that we are building. People will call that a toxic culture, whether you're gossiping about someone's classroom practice or something they said or did or looked, it's not great. Now, great leaders, they will filter feedback through wisdom, context, and a longer term vision. They're not going to indulge the noise. They're not going to speak into and about the noise. And even, I was like, oh my gosh, did you hear? Like, they're not going to buy into that rhetoric. And so now it does get a bit dangerous here, but if you are, I'm just going to call it out, a leader who does that stuff and, engages in that discourse, you really might need to do a little self-reflection process and just ask yourself, what culture am I building? So yeah, as Kristen said, if you're confiding in someone with gossip or whinging or complaining or deep concerns, and that leader rewards it, empowers it, enables it, it's not a great space to be in. And the bigger question is, what can you do? Like, do you have a disposition to gossip? Do you have a disposition to whinge or complain or say half or untruths about someone? Just ask yourself, is that helpful? Is it kind? We ask our students that all the time. So if it's not, don't say it. It's the same with adults. For me, but myself and my wife are in education, and there's many stories and there's many whinges, and there's a line where gossip steps in, and I think we all know what that is. I can do an entire episode on gossip if need be, but yeah, it's healthy to download and debrief, but you just got to figure out, is it erring into gossip? Or is it erring into complaining, maybe about a system or the way things are done? We just got to be careful who we speak that to. So I always refer to that as calling it up instead of going down, to parents and talking about things highly inappropriate. Talking about things with your students, that's inappropriate. Talking about things with your colleagues, if it's you might need to go up and talk to your leaders about that. Or if you are a leader, how do you synthesize that? All right, here's a new little segment for a quick sponsor grab. I'm actively looking for a show partner to come on board the wild ride of the Teachers Lounge, maybe Amart. That would be funny. But meanwhile, please punch a 5-star on Spotify and jump into the Facebook group Teachers Lounge, Teach, Lead, Inspire. And, like all the posts, throw some comments, questions in, that'd be great. But this is a space for a sponsor to jump in and really support and sponsor and drive the show forward. Moving on, I am going to throw in I call a tool. So my turn now. So that was it. There's a few other comments around leadership, but I'm just going to kind of speak into a space as a leader for leaders with a tool that you can essentially walk away with here. Oh, sorry, there's one more. And they do want to be anonymous because they are known in different circles, and it's just a privacy thing that I respect. So they said this: a good leader knows how to communicate well and effectively, and are curious about the people who work for them, and always ask clarifying questions to understand. Circling back to point number 1, if a leader is prone to micromanaging and distrust, they shouldn't be surprised that there will be that in return. So there's basically saying, if you're enabling a toxic environment, don't ask questions or scratch your head why you're struggling with your staff. Because if you flick the mirror around, what we call, I've got a bit of broccoli in my teeth moment. Now, what is that broccoli in your teeth? Remove it and carry on as a leader. So I'm just going to raise something out of that, the concept of curiosity. So think of curiosity as a superpower in your leadership. So for example, ask questions, listen, to understand what's going on, listen, speak less, listen more. If you lead with assumptions, or you assume, or you distrust, the culture is going to reflect that right back to you. A high trust environment, they're built by leaders who choose clarity over control. Now, I've worked in several schools, several organizations, and the most empowering ones I've been in are the ones with high trust. They're not calendar checking. They're not, barking down your back about things you haven't done or things that they're asking for that they're not going to check up on. But it's a high trust environment. And that in itself creates the breathing space to be creative, to be get things done in your own time, to manage yourself and do it well. So, as Anonymous has said, I'm just going to tackle communication. So a good leader knows how to communicate. And if you have a staff teaching team, let's just say the primary school, okay, there might be 10 teachers, 3 or 4 specialists. Each of those people, they're individuals. And they have a preference of how they like to be communicated to and how they also like to communicate. Again, this could be an entire year's worth of leadership development, and I've done a pretty extensive coaching course through Giant Worldwide, and it taps into this effective communication and building effective teams and how people communicate and leading the room. How do we hear each other without, someone coming in and, dropping a bomb and dominating and everyone walking away crying? Like there's strategies and whole books written on this stuff. So I'm not going to tap into that today, but just scratching the surface of good leaders know how to communicate. As simple as that. So if you're leading a team or doing a staff meeting, how are you going to run that? It takes you don't just walk into those meetings ad hoc. Well, you can, and a seasoned leader would be able to do that. But you always walk into the meetings going, how will my team be heard? Not the other way around of how will I be heard? Yes, you might have an agenda. That's the management part. But as a leader, how do you communicate effectively as a leader? And you'll need to figure that one out. I don't have the silver bullet because every team is different. Everyone listens differently. Everyone needs to be heard in a different way. Okay? So it still comes down to the listen more, speak less. And when you do speak, ask the right questions. So curiosity is a leadership superpower. And again, micromanagement and distrust, if that is a default position for you, don't be surprised that if there's problems in culture or some other things that poke their head up because there's a leadership problem going on. All right, some pretty heavy stuff there, and I am going to go back to what I talked about before Anonymous kind of interrupted my flow. Thank you, Anon. But this is called a support challenge matrix. And it's just something I want to leave you with, which may or may, I don't know, you can take it or leave it. I don't care. But you can actually Google this support challenge matrix giant. And it's just a little quadrant that it's a visual tool that is really helpful in everything to do with your role. I'm going to just take a couple of steps back. So when I was doing and am still doing leadership coaching and team development stuff, this is almost the bread and butter, a coaching tool. So support challenge matrix. So imagine a quadrant, and I'm going to just pull up a visual myself, and you can do the same. Support challenge matrix giant. So I'm going to describe it a little bit. So we have 4 quadrants, and just picture an arrow going up and down and an arrow going side to side. In each quadrant is a word, which I'll unpack, but across the middle, as in going side to side, if you think about one side as a leader, low challenge. So you're not challenging anyone, you're not kind of drawing out the best, it's just the concept of low challenge. On the other end is high challenge. So you're able to give people tasks, kind of stretching them, those growth goals, that kind of concept. So low to high across the middle. Up and down in the middle, you have the support line. So one is low support, obviously down the bottom, where you, just stay in your office and that's pretty much it. Maybe shoot a few emails out. And at the top is high support. And that's that concept where we, in the trenches, so to speak, or, you put your money where your mouth is. So challenge across the middle and support also across the middle, up and down. Now, there are 4 quadrants. Some are bad, which would create a toxic environment. Some are good, which is more empowering. And so if we're just putting our leadership goggles on again for this little matrix, it does tap into all those 4 areas that we looked at. So just recapping, good leaders does not micromanage. They work with the specialities and utilize specialities. Great leaders are not opposed to getting in there, and the worst leaders dictate and give directions and don't get involved. Number 3 was about gossiping and whinging and complaining and not calling out, but not rewarding that toxicity, but coming in with a perception of wisdom, context, and long-term vision. And anonymous is about communication and also not micromanaging. So back to this matrix. In the first corner, which I would align with low challenge and high support. Okay, so this quadrant is called the protector, and it creates a culture of perhaps entitlement and mistrust. So this is like if it was a color, it would be red. so so as a leader, you're not really challenging your staff, but you're also providing high support, like maybe learning aids or lots of extra time, but they're not being challenged to, provide their lesson plans or think about challenging their own students. It's protector mode. So you've got staff, as their leader, you're protecting them. Okay. A culture of entitlement and mistrust is what it is. Lots of support, low challenge. Underneath that, in the bottom left quadrant, is what we would have as a leader, an abdicator, which by definition is you're not there or you're dropping the ball. So this is where low challenge and low support comes in. Now, this creates a culture of apathy and low expectations. So again, if this was a color, I don't know, orange, red. So it's the abdicator. So it's the leader that doesn't really challenge their staff, but also doesn't know or doesn't even support. So there's low expectations. So I'll just roll with the lesson plans one. Yeah, don't worry about your lesson plans, and I'm just gonna duck out for a coffee. And if you need anything, go see so and so. They'll sort you out. So they're not in the trenches. They're not there. They're not present. They're not emotionally connected. They're abdicating, which is what that's called. Both of those are in the low challenge side of the matrix. So one is a protector. They're not challenging. No, there's no professional growth. It's like entitlement. There's no trust. It's just protecting, caretaker mode, basically. The other one is, they're abdicating. They're not there. They're not present. They're not supporting you. They're just not there. So hopefully in your leadership team, that isn't there. I'm going to flick over to the other side of the high challenge now. Okay. And so I'm going to start on the bottom right quadrant, which is high challenge, but low support. So this is called the dominator. That sounds like Terminator, but no, the dominator. And again, if this was a color, it would be possibly red. So the dominating leader, opposed to the protector, the abdicator, the dominating leader has high challenge, but inadequate support mechanisms to help you meet those challenges. So this creates a culture of fear and also manipulation. Like get these in or else, or get these in, or there might even be an emotional manipulation in that space of like, are you really like, what are you? Are you a great teacher, or like you can't even do a lesson plan? You can't even get these learning plans in, or you can't like it's dominating and it creates a culture of fear. So maybe, and this is, I think, where micromanagement fits in as well. So there's that high challenge and checking up on calendars and checking up in your classroom, and I'm going to run an observation on you and give you these results. And it's like, where's the support? Like, yes, come and watch me, absolutely, but there's a very low support mechanism in that approach to leadership. All those three quadrants would be like orange or red. So hopefully you're getting the vibe that that's negative and toxic and not great at all. Now, the top right quadrant, which is high challenge and high support, is called liberator. So this leader is a liberator. And what they're doing with that, creating a high challenge, but also offering very appropriate support mechanisms, is creating a culture of empowerment and also opportunities. It wouldn't be uncommon for a leader to kind of flip between different quadrants. So, they might come in with this liberation and empowerment and opportunities, and this is great. Here are the supports. This is the time you need. If you need a day off, great. I'll jump in, and that's liberating and empowering. But I don't know, there could be this bipolar effect of, the next week they're this dominating boss, which is inconsistent perhaps. And so, yeah, that's a different different issue altogether. But I'm just painting a picture here that an effective leader has this capacity to empower and create growth opportunities with the adequate support as well. I'm going to leave that there as a picture. Look it up, support challenge matrix, giant, worldwide. You get a bunch of pictures, and it's just a great tool to, as a leader, identify where your tendencies kind of fit, or if you're a teacher or teacher leader and being led, where your leader fits into. That will be your job, not to call them out, but respond appropriately to them in a understanding kind of way. Okay, so that was a bit of went on a bit of a tangent there, and I do actually want to just finish up with just a bit of a wrap up and wrap up challenge, and just kind of ask what kind of leader are you becoming? And I've just got 4 little points here just to remind us of why we think of that, what kind of leader we're becoming. So first point is leadership is built moment by moment. It's not a job title. So yay, principal or head of primary or a curriculum coordinator. Leadership is not about that thing on your badge. It's built moment by moment. Second point is the opposite of great leadership is really easy to spot. And as expressed in the Facebook group, many have experienced poor leadership, and we know what good leadership is not. And so if you're stepping into this arena, or you are in this arena, what is it that you don't want to be, or who is it that you don't want to be? Figure out what those tendencies are. Don't do them. Third point, leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. And again, that itself is another podcast episode about intentionality. But yeah, you've got, principal on your name tag. You're new this year into the job, whatever. No one's expecting you to be perfect or have it all together. But if you're intentional about the small things, communicating, being curious, empowering, calling up, not calling out, that stuff stands out. What leader are you becoming? And the fourth one there is be the leader you wish you had. Or better yet, be the leader your team actually needs. Maybe there's a season where your team, they're just so loose. They've been under this abdicated leadership, a leader who's not there, and they're kind of floundering around, bit gossipy, bit, whatever here and there. Not great. They're not challenging themselves. They're just kind of aiming for mediocrity. Maybe you do need to juggle a bit of a dominating leader, but also a liberating leader. So laying down those firm, hard boundaries, which is the high challenge, but instead of having that low support, how are you going to come in and really support that? I do need to carve out an entire semester's worth of staff meetings to address complacency. Have a think about that. Be the leader your team actually needs. Well, there we go. That is it for today for the Teachers Lounge Teach, Lead, Inspire podcast. On a side note, with my goals, I've actually locked in someone who is wanting to edit and chop up and cut out my awkward ums and ahs to really help the Teachers Lounge podcast. So even now I'm throwing in some ums and ahs to really test them. But no, we've got someone who's coming in to really boost up the podcast and make it sound a lot better. So hopefully you've actually noticed or are noticing some of the differences, whether it's noise or quality, or I'm not sure the music sounds better. But shout out to Mark, who is jumped in and really just nurturing and making this better. Because at the end of the day, together, my vision is that teachers are supported, enabled, empowered, encouraged to really just do their best and stay in the career. And if that takes just a chat on the Teachers Lounge couch, so be it. So that's it. I'm finished up for the week. I might back this on with another podcast episode, actually. But until then, go and do well.
Thanks for listening to this episode release of the Teachers Lounge podcast. We really do hope you've enjoyed the dialogue. The information discussed today was just that, information only. It's not specific advice. If you take action on something you've heard today, it's important to make sure that you get professional advice about your unique situation before you proceed, whether that advice be legal, financial, accounting, medical, or otherwise. Please reach out to Ben if you have any questions or if there is anything he can do to support your teaching or leadership journey, whether it's another topic you'd like discussed or one-to-one support. If you do know someone that would benefit from listening to this episode, please remember to tell them about it, share the episode with them, or connect with us on socials. We trust you're inspired in your role, your leadership aspirations, and your ability to serve and inspire.